Alright, listen up. We're skipping the pleasantries today. What you are about to hear is classified Level 4 Foundation intelligence. I'm your briefing officer, and this session covers Keter class anomaly SCP-6448. This isn't just another routine debrief. This is highly restricted operational intel, and honestly, getting this into your head is literally a matter of field survival. If you're operating anywhere in or near the Appalachian containment zones, failing to comprehend this threat means you won't be coming back. So let's get into it. A quick message. Accessing these archives requires Level 3 clearance. Ensure your credentials are up to date by hitting the subscribe button to stay informed on future containment breaches. Back to the video. Here is how we're breaking this down today. We'll proceed systematically through threat identification, physical anomalies, predatory behavior, the service protocol, run through some civilian encounter logs, and finally, we'll conclude with a debrief on Incident 6448-Alpha. Starting right off with Section 1, Threat Identification. So, SCP-6448. Locals in the region colloquially call it the Not Deer. It's a Keter class, highly sapient branch of the Cervidae family. Now, notice that Keter classification. That means it is exceedingly difficult to contain consistently. These entities mimic non-anomalous deer, sure, but they are absolute apex predators that actively stalk humans. Right now, all civilian sightings are being intercepted by Mobile Task Force Gamma 4, the Green Stags. Anytime there's a public fatality, we cover it up immediately as a tragic hiking accident, and widespread sightings are officially blamed on outbreaks of chronic wasting disease. Knowing the difference between standard wildlife and this anomaly is an absolutely vital survival skill. Standard cervidae, your typical elk, moose, or white-tailed deer, possess completely normal biological structures, they have a natural fear of humans, and they move strictly on 4 legs. SCP-6448 instances, on the other hand, display severe, impossible anatomical malformations. They have zero fear of us, engaging in highly calculated, sapient stalking behaviors, and get this, they are fully capable of moving upright on 2 legs. Moving on to Section 2, Physical Anomalies. You need to memorize this list right now. These are your visual identification markers in the field. Instances frequently show up with legs that bend completely backwards. You'll see a barrel-chested or heavily bloated abdomen on a body that is otherwise extremely emaciated. And honestly, perhaps most disturbingly, they feature forward-facing eyes, often belonging to entirely unrelated animals. And yes, that includes humans. When they move, it's just wrong. It's very jerky, stiff, and uncoordinated. To really underscore how severe these physical distortions are, review this case file extract from June 2002. A civilian reported a home break-in where firearms and cutlery were systematically stolen, but there wasn't a single broken lock or fingerprint left behind. We analyzed the recovered, heavily corrupted CCTV footage, and it captured a sick deer standing completely upright on its hind legs. The footage clearly showed its front hooves had been physically warped and elongated to function like human fingers. Alright, Section 3, Predatory Behavior. Back in November 2005, a cattle farmer called in a panic about the sudden, inexplicable disappearance of 30% of his largest herd. We set up trail cameras and later caught 2 SCP-648 instances just methodically walking through the field. Then, one of them stopped and planted a single metal fork right into the earth. 1 week later, 200 discarded cow hooves were found piled up in that exact location. It was leaving us a message. Their predatory cycle is chillingly methodical. SCP-6448 won't just attack, it will observe and pursue human targets for hours, sometimes days, through deep woodland. They will follow you directly to your private residence, actively stealing belongings, food, and uniquely, your weapons to disarm you. They frequently mimic human voices, coughing or whistling to lure targets off the established trails. But here is the most critical detail. Direct acknowledgement of the entity's anomalous traits triggers immediate, lethal hostility. Which brings us to Section 4, the Service Protocol. If you run into an instance in the field, these steps are non-negotiable. Step 1. Look away and ignore the entity entirely. Step 2. If you hear your name being called from the trees or hear whispering or whistling, do not acknowledge it. Do not look for it. Step 3. Even if you feel something breathing on your neck in the dark, you must pretend that everything is absolutely normal. Treating the entity as if it is a standard non-anomalous deer triggers no reaction. Acknowledging what it actually is guarantees your termination. The Cryptozoology Division put it perfectly in their documentation, distilling it down to this absolute directive. Your survival is dependent on your ignorance. Let that sink in. Let's look at Section 5, Civilian Encounter Logs. Reviewing 911 dispatch records reveals exactly how this threat escalates when civilians fail to adhere to protocol. The Foundation continuously monitors and extracts evidence from these public encounters. In 2000, a victim got lured into the brush by a screaming voice and only narrowly escaped because they ignored the stationary anomaly. We've already discussed the 2002 tool theft. In 2009, a caller reported a violently contorting deer. Our recovered footage showed a viscous black mass erupting right out of the animal before the feed cut out. 2012, a junior wildlife officer vanished completely after radioing his supervisor about a deer with backwards joints. When backup arrived, only his radio remained. And in 2016, a victim managed to barricade herself inside a wardrobe before an instance completely breached her home's front door. During that 2016 home invasion, the dispatch tape captured the entity shaking the doorknob, just calmly and repeatedly stating in a stolen human voice,
"Hello, it is me. Hello, let me in."
When it finally breached the bedroom, it dropped from a bipedal stance down into a quadrupedal crouch, moving like a giant arachnid. The feed ended with a single gunshot. Neither the victim nor the entity were ever recovered. Finally, Section 6, Incident 6448-Alpha. In November 2019, we actually managed to successfully detain an instance using experimental shock rifles and transported it overseas to Site 44 on Foulness Island, England. During the initial interrogation by cryptozoology specialist Oz, the entity was facing away from the reinforced one-way glass. Suddenly, it swiveled its neck a full 180 degrees. It shattered its own cervical vertebrae with a loud crack, just to lock unbroken eye contact with the researcher through what was supposed to be a one-way mirror. Researcher Oz pushed the interrogation, demanding to know why the genus takes humans. Suddenly, the entity stopped its choking vocalizations. It projected a distorted, perfectly mimicked version of researcher Oz's own voice, and it said, "Research, July 7, 1947. That date corresponds exactly to the very first recorded civilian reports of SCP-6448. This anomaly possessed advanced cognitive awareness, not just of human speech, but of the Foundation's own classified historical data regarding its discovery. Right after it made that statement, its physical form just collapsed. The instance violently contorted and screamed. A thick, black, tendrilous mass erupted directly out of the entity's abdomen. What was left of the cervid carcass on the floor was completely hollow. It was essentially just wearing a discarded biological suit. That black mass moved with terrifying speed, shattered the 20-inch thick, reinforced glass, breached the sector lockdown doors, and escaped entirely into the English countryside. A 2-month search yielded absolutely nothing. Which leaves us with this very grim operational reality. Following Incident 6448-Alpha, there's been an unprecedented local surge in chronic wasting disease-afflicted deer, along with a massive influx of UFO reports surrounding Site 44 in Essex. So, the ultimate question you need to ask yourselves before deploying is this: has the SCP-6448 threat irreversibly expanded beyond the Appalachian containment zone? Review this data, learn the physical markers, and whatever you do, rely on the service protocol. Your survival out there truly depends on it. End transmission. This concludes today's briefing. If you wish to maintain your current clearance level and ensure continued access to the Versarian database, a subscription to this channel is mandatory. Secure your connection by leaving a like on this file, and log your requests in the comments section below to dictate which anomaly we unseal next. Stay vigilant and expect your next set of logs every day. Secure, contain, protect.